So the next slide we have here is about exhuming and opening a grave. So it might happen sometimes that the government agency might come to you and they will say the relative that was buried, uh, who died a natural death, they would say we would want to test on that person because they have an evidence that that person was poisoned. So they would want that body to be taken out of the grave. What does Islam say about it? Is it allowed? Can we let them take the body out of the grave? So the scholars have mentioned some conditions in which it is allowed and other conditions where it is not allowed. And what are the evidences that they give? Let's look into those. So the one reason that's a valid excuse is that sometimes it happens that a person is buried without maybe like washing or shrouding, which is for the kifaya. So if that was not done by people, probably because they didn't have knowledge, living in maybe a non-Muslim lands, they just buried like that. In that case, we can take the body out and do washing and shrouding and then bury the person. If janazah prayer was not prayed, we said last time that it can be prayed at the grave itself. We don't have to take it out. But if washing shrouding was not done, we have to take it out. And as I said, if it's a government enforced reason, then it is allowed that for autopsy or whatever. But you don't have any control on that. So, but if such a thing is done, we have to make sure that few conditions are met. So this can be done before the body decays. So if it's like the person died 1 or 2 days ago, the body is still not gonna decay. So it is okay. But if the body is like decaying or in the process is already completed decaying, in that case, it's not allowed unless it's like completely disintegrated. Basically, excavating a grave, it is equivalent to breaking a bone of the deceased. And we have a straightforward hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said in the hadith that he said that breaking the bone of the deceased person is equivalent to breaking the bone of when he was alive. So that's the sanctity of a Muslim extends even after his death. So that's the thing. Even though the dead person might not really feel anything, we might say, but he's actually in a completely different world. So we don't know what happens in his world, but Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us clearly that this is like equivalent to breaking the bone. You should avoid doing that. And what's the evidence that scholars give? How can we say that we can take out the body out of the grave? So the scholars give the evidence that it happened during the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wherein he said that he commanded the Sahaba radiallahu anhum to take out the body of Abdullah ibn Ubay. He was buried without informing Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he claimed to be a Muslim, Abdullah ibn Ubay. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when his body was taken out, Prophet gave him his shirt to be wrapped around him. So they did that and then they buried him. So that's one incident that happened where they took out the body out of the grave. And other reasons that scholars say that it is okay, valid conditions is if like maybe somebody dropped in the grave something really important, precious, then it is okay, then they can dig it up and take it out. It happens sometimes that even the workers who are digging the grave, they forget their tools or something. So that's a valid reason. But invalid reasons can include things like, like some people like open the grave and throw seeds, maybe expecting some plants to grow which might be better for the grave. These are all false beliefs that should be avoided. And some people like keep clothes and so on. A lot of bid'ahs So these are all not allowed. So generally speaking, opening a grave and exhuming a grave, it's not allowed unless you have a reason to do so for the reasons we mentioned. So next on the slide I have here is building over a grave. So now we see a graveyard. Can we buy that land and can we build a house or masjid or some place for ourselves, a business, or can we cultivate it, use it for agriculture? What is allowed, what is not allowed? So generally speaking, it is permissible to use a graveyard or to cultivate over it or to build over it, but there are some conditions that must be met. First of all, again, the scholars give their evidences as well, why it is allowed and why it's not allowed, in what conditions. So the first condition that must be met is that all the bodies inside the graveyard must be completely disintegrated and completely turned to dust. If that is there, then okay. Otherwise, again, it goes back to what we said earlier, that if there are still bones inside the graves, then it is equivalent to breaking the bone of the deceased, which is same as breaking his bone when he was alive. So, but an invalid condition, an example would be like a person builds over a grave because he thinks that, oh, this was a very pious person. If I'll make a house over this person and my house will be blessed. If people have such kind of superstitious beliefs and giving extra honor to such graves, then this is definitely forbidden. He cannot build something like that. But otherwise, if completely disintegrated graves, very old ones, it's okay, it's allowed to cultivate it or build over it. The evidence that scholars give is from the seerah itself. They said that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he came to Medina, he wanted to build this masjid, his masjid, Masjid al-Nabawi. The place where it is right now, it used to be a graveyard. It used to be the graves of pagans, and there used to be some other ruins and palm trees and so on. So when he bought this place, he ordered the Sahaba to dig these graves and have that all those ruins down, and everything was demolished and it was taken out and removed, and then he built the masjid. So that was pagans again, graves of pagans. So the scholars use this as an evidence that is allowed. But nobody now knows about that there were graves. If some people think that, oh, my ancestors used to live in Medina and there's a grave in the Masjid al-Nabawi for them, and there will be some benefit for me because there's a masjid here because of that grave, then that's a wrong belief. Nothing should be related to the grave underneath.